homes are designed and built to a certain standard to alleviate some things such as damp and mold issues caused by ventilation, etc. Obviously, the homes being built every year and some much older than others, so presumably those sort of standards have changed over the years. But how much of it is actually the fact that there is the sort of widespread housing volume problem, and therefore there's maybe more people living in some of these homes than they were originally designed for, and possibly lifestyle things. I suppose it goes into the sort of where do you see the role or the ownership of the HA being involved in this? Is it that the housing association needs to make sure that the property is in the sort of condition which reduces those types of problems as much as possible, and when they know that, then look at the sort of lifestyle as possibly the causing factor? Or I don't know if any of you've got any takes on that. I know you mentioned it yourself to begin with there, John. But
so we've done quite a bit under wave 1, wave 2 of the SHDF, and we're just about to embark on wave 3. We've actually spent an awful lot of money retrofitting and making properties warmer. But the cost of living has had a major impact. So we're now going back to properties that have only been retrofitted in the last year. So we put smart devices in there, and the smart devices, the data we're getting back is saying that it's dropped below a certain thing, or there's moisture. So we've gone back and we put ventilation systems in there and all the things that you would expect. And people are covering over the ventilation systems, and they're not putting the heating on because they can't afford it. So for us as an association, we're doing all the things we can do on the property, but it's about how do we support people through that cost of living crisis. So it's that, for us, it's that whole systems approach, not seeing things in isolation. That is a difficult one, to be honest.
But when all the publicity came out that they were cutting the winter fuel allowance, 80% of our residents are over 70. Suddenly we had well, I don't want to patronise people, but there was a lot of worry. And people think, I'm going to freeze, I'm going to stop putting my heating on now. And obviously the impact on that, on people's well-being and on damp on the property, which is where we first get it in, was actually measurable. And when we looked at the causes of why, condensation suddenly, more so than it had when we looked at it in the previous year when the winter came on. And it was just because people weren't putting their heating on because they thought they weren't going to be able to afford their bills. The reality was actually we had a relatively mild winter, and with the triple lock on pensions and so on, people weren't, the £300 allowance didn't really make any difference. And anyone who's on pension credit got it anyway. It was an education thing, but that kind of messaging just really impacted on people's lives and the quality of our stock. That fear factor, it can be turned into real pounds, shillings and pence at the end of the day. And that's out of our control.